Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, HJ, welcome to my channel. And for today's video, we're talking reboots. There's been a lot of rumoured reboots going around to do with the Harry Potter franchise, that they're going to completely redo the whole 7 films, they're going to make it into a TV series, Cursed Child's going to become a movie. I've heard that a dozen times. And as I was going through my phone one night, I found this article from CBR.com, and it's 10 things we don't want to see in a Harry Potter reboot. So I thought I'd react to these with you guys and let's see if we agree with these 10 things. If you want to know what they are, stick around for the video. If you're new here, hi, welcome. Hit the like button if you like this video. If you like this content, feel free to subscribe. And without further ado, let's get started. I will link this article either down below or in the comments, just so if you guys want to read it, you can. Number 10 is lack of diverse characters. So, since the 8 Harry Potter movies revolved mostly around a cast of homogeneous and non-diverse characters, just like in J.K. Rowling's books. However, fans have been asking for more diverse in the series, such as including more POC and LGBTQ+ characters. The Fantastic Beasts series was also criticised for queer baiting. I'm going to come back to that in a minute because I've got a lot to say about that. A reboot of the original films would be completely wasteful if the makers chose to create a non-diverse cast of characters all over again. Harry Potter needs to become more inclusive, and it would be completely disappointing to receive anything less than 2023. Agreed. We've had like diverse things, like everyone was always complaining when they cast Cursed Child that Hermione was not being played by a white actress, but if a white actress blew them off their feet, they would have cast a white actress. That's all I want to say. Like, it didn't bother me either way. As long as the actress played Hermione as Hermione, I wasn't bothered. As long as she got the character right, I didn't care what the colour of her skin was. I really don't care. I do feel that the LGBTQ+ community has not been represented enough. I recently just did a short because it's confirmed that on the Broadway version of Cursed Child, they're now actually having Scorpius and Albus as a couple towards the end, which is brilliant in the play, that they had feelings for each other, but then that was slightly queer baiting a wee bit. And I get what they mean with Fantastic Beasts. We only really found out after Deathly Hallows came out that Dumbledore was gay, and that the only thing we knew about it was he had a very, very close relationship with Grindelwald. And it's never been confirmed on Grindelwald's side if he is gay or not, which is frustrating, very frustrating. Some hints of Secrets of Dumbledore, I was like, well, maybe he does feel the same, but until it comes out of his mouth. I think more diverse characters are needed, more in the forefront than the back. I know we had like Cho Chang and Dean Thomas and that, but they had more to do in the books. Again, it came down to obviously having to cut things for the movies, but it would be nice to see more people like them in the forefront. 9 is Ron Weasley shouldn't be relegated to comic relief. Thank you. Thank you. Everyone who's read the books knows Ron is more intelligent in the books, and they just made him for comic relief for the movies. He is not as dumb. One of the most common critiques of the Harry Potter films is the adoption of Ron Weasley. While Ron is by no means perfect in the books, he's still intelligent, compassionate and loyal. However, the films only allowed him for comedic relief. Harry Potter fans wouldn't like to see the same portrayal of Ron in the reboot. It would be too easy for reboot to continue making Ron as a comic relief character, but if this reboot happens, writers should take into consideration Ron's characterization from the books. 100% agree with this. Ron is basically Harry's gateway into the wizarding world. I mean, I know that Hermione's read books, but Ron's lived in it. He's had older brothers. His dad works in the ministry, given all his lines to Hermione in the movies, and it's actually very frustrating. So I hope if they do this reboot, I'm not hoping they do it, but if they do it, that they make Ron more intelligent and not just for a laugh, because that's not who Ron is. 8, unnecessary or forced romantic interactions. Yes. Have some, by all means, have some romantic interactions, of course, but not stupid ones. Even though the characters are going through their teenage years in the Harry Potter series, romance is not a main topic in the books. No, it isn't. However, Warner Brothers tried to create more romantic interactions to appeal to certain audiences, especially in Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Oh my god, cringy. If there's a reboot, fans don't want to see these types of cringeworthy scenes. No, we don't. If a new adaptation chooses to include more romance, it would be important to make the romantic relationships organic and establish their basis from the beginning of the film or TV shows. Agreed. Half-Blood Prince was so cringy. In the beginning of that movie, Harry was flirting with a waitress in the cafe in the train station. Next thing we know, as soon as he sees Ginny, he's like, oh, Ginny. And then Ginny was with Dean for a while, and then all of a sudden they were fighting, we had hints they were going to break up. But it didn't just happen automatically like that. And then that kiss in the room requirement was just awful. Like, they just kiss. Like, it's their first kiss. You think they would stay together, keep them there and have a conversation or something. No, Ginny buggers off. Don't know where she's gone. 7, poor adoption of characters. We all know who this is talking about. While the Harry Potter franchise brought some of the most iconic and well-adapted characters such as Minerva McGonagall and Severus Snape, it also made a lot of mistakes. The worst error was the poor adoption of Ginny Weasley. I'm sorry, it's like Bonnie. It has nothing to do with Bonnie Wright as an actress. She was just doing what she was told. Fans hope that a Harry Potter reboot will correct this sort of mistake. Since all the books are already published, a new Harry Potter series will have the opportunity to create well-developed and consistent characters. In the Harry Potter films, Ginny Weasley, Albus Dumbledore and Cho Chang should have been more similar to their book counterparts. Yes, I'll agree. Cho Chang got a lot of hate in the films, but if you read it in the books, she got given the serum and they told it wasn't just, like, she didn't tell, it was someone else, but I think they did it for more dramatic effect because she was supposed to be with Harry, things like that, so that's why she got more hate. Albus, I'll agree, I think Gambon was given to try and play it differently to Harris, because obviously Richard Harris, who played Dumbledore, sadly died, and then they had to recast Dumbledore. I think he was just trying to not make it the same Dumbledore as Richard Harris, but I think they gave him some bad direction. Some things that he did with Dumbledore I loved, some things were a bit off. 6, anticlimactic and boring battles. While the Harry Potter books are packed with intense climactic scenes, the movies are known for containing very disappointing battles. A face-to-face between Dumbledore and Voldemort should have been an epic affair, but the movies made it look very boring. That battle in that movie was epic. I love that scene. That's one of my favourite scenes ever. You see these two powerful wizards, like, I say you hear about it with Gellert and Dumbledore, but we'll never see it. We'll never see it. And that battle was epic. I love that. It was not boring. I was on the edge of my freaking seat every time. The same happened in the final fight. Yeah, the final battle between Harry and Voldemort was awful. Like, bad. What should have been an emotional, interesting duel became a strange chase throughout Hogwarts. Yeah. Just, if you're going to battle. Voldemort's death was also criticised, yes, because he wasn't supposed to fade and go away like paper. He was supposed to die like a human that he was scared of. He didn't want to die human, and he died like the human that he's supposed to be was perfect. The fact that they made him into confetti? No. Potterheads would love it if more epic action-packed battles are brought to a reboot. Yes, I would. This is why, like, I don't like how the Fantastic Beasts are no longer going to happen, because I would love to have seen what they would have done with the final battle with Dumbledore and Grindelwald. It would have been so good. I can already picture it in my head. Like, I'm picturing it. And I reckon they could have made it just as good, or if not better, than the Order of the Phoenix battle between Dumbledore and Voldemort. 5, unnecessary changes from the book. Yes. Stick to your source material. One of the most criticised aspects of Harry Potter movies is the unnecessary changes made from the books. While it's impossible to make some changes while adapting the book to a whole new medium, scenes like the burning of the burrow were simply unnecessary. Yeah, like, I didn't mind that scene at first, but then when I look back on it, it's like, that was not in the books. Why did they put it there? They had so many more things they could have shoved in there, like stuff to do with Voldemort, because we saw more of Voldemort than we did, like, his past. We saw more of that. They cut out the Remus and Tonks completely. They could have some of that in there. Fans don't want a reboot that makes very drastic or absurd changes unless the changes help to make the story even better. Exactly. Any changes from the book should be well thought out and consistent throughout the whole story, unlike most of the ones made by Warner Brothers. Yeah, I'll agree that I know you can't adapt a whole book. It's impossible. I'm looking at them as I'm saying this. But adding things in, unless it helps move the story, it won't work. 4, scenes just for the sake of nostalgia. Now, I'm probably going to do this because there are things that we would want to put in, like classic moments, for nostalgia for us old ones, if they're wanting to introduce Harry Potter to a new generation and revamp it. But I think seeing those nostalgic scenes now would be a bit like, In the last few years, lots of shows and movies have been rebooted. It's become traditional to make products succeed only through nostalgia. For example, reboots might make a number of callbacks to the original show or movie just to capitalise on its success. I get doing that in films sometimes, because it's always nice to draw back on things and being like, if it was a character in the original that's not in this movie, it's like, where are they? And it's like, they couldn't make it. It's like, like that sort of thing I don't mind. Since Harry Potter is one of the biggest phenomenons from the last few decades, it would be very tempting for a reboot to include lots of fan service and nostalgic scenes. While a few cameos, references and Easter eggs would hype up the fans, too many would ruin the reboot. Yeah, like Easter eggs and like character mentions and that are fine. Like, I think it's always fun to spot like little Easter eggs being like, oh look, like in Secrets of Dumbledore, when they have the Monster Book of Monsters. I was like, oh, that's a nod to Harry Potter. It's like, it's nice to have nods. But yeah, I'll agree with that. 3, keeping the same scenery and clothing from the previous movies. Okay. There's no doubt that fans would love a Harry Potter reboot to correct the mistakes of the past films. Because it would be the whole new adaptation of the series, it should propose a fresh aesthetic. No one wants to see the same films all over again. Yes, I understand. Yeah, I get that. Plus, these films were made like, oh my gosh, years ago now. And if they kept the same costumes and the same like style, and it's like, I get the nostalgia could be like, oh, it's very 2000s because they were made and released in the 2000s. But I feel like if you do reboot it, you should reboot the style as well, like a little bit of the style as well. For example, the inside of the Hogwarts castle can be criticised for its lack of originality. Excuse me, do not bring Hogwarts into this, thank you very much. A reboot would be the perfect opportunity to reimagine the school and create a new version of Hogwarts. It would be extremely disappointing for viewers if the same elements remain the same. Don't bring Hogwarts castle into this. You do not touch that. Maybe older versions of Hogwarts if you were going to do films, like an older version, like let's see what it looked like when it was older. Yes, maybe if they reboot it and it comes forward, like let's see what Hogwarts looks like now. But if they don't bring Hogwarts in. 2, the typical children's fantasy formula from 2000s movies. Fantasy series became incredibly popular in the 2000s. Those that targeted younger audience such as Narnia, Harry Potter and Percy Jackson enjoyed critical and commercial success. While Harry Potter was an inspiration for many of these franchises, a reboot should step away from reusing the typical fantasy tropes. Harry Potter starts as a children's book, but the series gets increasingly dark as Harry and Voldemort go closer to their final showdown. A reboot should take advantage of this dark tone to make a more serious and interesting version of the series. This would make the story more engaging and less repetitive. Yeah, okay, I understand that. My mum said something about that when we were watching the movie. She's like, I like them, but they get so dark towards the end. I'm like, Mum, yeah, it's because Harry's getting older and he's got to have a final showdown with Voldemort. Of course it's going to be dark. It's going to get darker. It's going to get less childlike. It's going to get more serious. So I think starting off with the fact of that, like maybe if they do Philosopher's Stone again, it's like always having the idea of like, yes, Harry's the chosen one and Voldemort could still be there, and it's almost like keeping it like darker, like not too dark, but like darkening it up a wee bit more just to be like, there's always a consistent threat. And now we're at number 1. Inconsistencies in style and in the plot. There were 2 main problems in the Harry Potter films. The first one is that they consistently changed directors, which prompted big differences in the aesthetics of the movies. Yes, they all had different, well, the first 2 were done by the same, and then the third one and the fourth were done by 2 other different directors, and 5 to 7 was the same director, and then he went on to do Fantastic Beasts. But you can tell the aesthetic has changed. The other problem is that they start creating the movies before all the books were published, which gave way to many inconsistencies. Yes, I agree with that. Audiences wouldn't be as forgiving with a reboot as they were with the original films. If Harry Potter were to be rebooted, fans would expect this would be a more thought out project. The studio would have the opportunity to make a more consistent series, both aesthetically and narratively. I'll agree with that. I remember that the films were still going on and the books weren't done, and I was thinking, right, so I get why, because they could write things in and then later on find out that's not correct. I know that we were consulting J.K. Rowling, but she wasn't wanting to give anything away. With a reboot, you would have more consistencies because the books are done. You could look over the books more thoroughly, being like, do we want this in? Do we want this in? Do we want this in? But if we don't want this in, what can we add in here that flows as consistently as they can make the series like a proper introduction to the wizarding world again for people. That's it, guys. That is the 10 things CBR do not want to see in a Harry Potter reboot. Which one of these do you agree with more? Let me know in the comments. Is there anything you don't want to see in the reboot? Let me know. Again, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to subscribe, please do. And I will see you guys in another video. Bye.